It is Saturday in the NFL. My two best bets are on the way. We're going to talk all about the Cleveland Browns traveling to Houston to take on the Texans, and the Miami Dolphins traveling to Kansas City in the freezing cold to take on the Chiefs. My best bet in each of those games is on the way. What's going on? My name is Austin for calling our shot in a change of scenery today, but that's okay. Let's recap how we did on Week 18 to end the NFL regular season. Not a great week for us. A 1-5 week, down a little over 4 units. Like, I hate ending the season like that, but that's what we got the postseason. We can absolutely dominate and end the season in the way that I really want to end it in. I know it's been a very up and down season for us. We got to the point where we were down 15 units. Then we rattled off 4 or 5 straight winning weeks. And then last week left a sour taste in my mouth. Let's absolutely dominate wild card weekend. We got a lot of games, and we're just going to talk about the first 2 on Saturday. We'll have other videos for Sunday's slate. And we all will have a separate video for the Bucs and Eagles game on Monday Night Football. But before we dive into that, there actually is a free square live right now on Sleeper for Sunday's slate of action. It's only for new users. It's for Matthew Stafford, and it's his return to Detroit, which is going to be a nuts game. But we'll talk about that one later on this week. But before we dive into that, if you want to sign up for Sleeper, not only will you get that free square for Matthew Stafford, you also get a couple discounts that you can use on Saturday. They have a CJ Stroud discount, and also they have a match on your first deposit up to $500. The catches, you got to use our code COS and you'll get all that stuff. So make sure you use that code COS or the top link in the description. You get that $500 deposit match up to $500, and you also will get that free square for Matthew Stafford on Sunday. But you guys came for some picks. First one, we're going to start in that Texans game, and I'm going to go to a Texans running back that cost us money last week. Going to Devin Singletary, over 16.5 rushing attempts, minus 122 on FanDuel. Now, rushing attempts have been one of my most profitable props this season if you just remove Jerome Ford, who just continues to wreck us. Now, I hope Jerome Ford goes under and doesn't get any touches on Saturday. But either way, we're not talking about Jerome Ford. We're talking about Devin Singletary, who did cost us money last week. I was between 2 props for him. I was between his rushing plus receiving yards, his rushing yards, or I was going to take his rush attempts. The rush attempts was my second lean, and of course, he crushed the rushing attempts. He just did not get any. He was not efficient at all. And we saw, but in that game, you have to love what they saw. I mean, that was a Texans, basically playoff game. Texans needed to win that game to get into the playoffs. And Singletary, 24 rushing attempts, 88% of snaps, and he only averaged 2.6 yards per carry. So the man stunk, and they still stuck to him. And I like this matchup, honestly, a little bit more against the Browns, a team that actually hasn't been as good as you might think stopping the run. Now, you saw last time, I would say the last thing really the Texans would want to do is get behind the sticks. We know the Browns defense has been really good this season, and we know they got Myles Garrett. They got a bunch of other pass rushers that will come after CJ Stroud. I think the last thing they want to do is get into 2nd and 10, 3rd and long, be like, hey, Myles Garrett, we're passing the football. No, I don't think that's what they want to do. I think they want to try to run the football early and often in this game, and they can get them into 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 5, which Singletary is certainly capable of getting, 4 or 5 yards per carry. That sets up the offense a lot more better for some play action, some even running it on 2nd down as well. I think that's what they're going to go to. And we saw last week, even though we saw 24 rush attempts, Texans only ran 56 plays. This season, if you look at the team who ran the fewest plays per game in the NFL, was the Seattle Seahawks. They ran 58.5, so not a lot of plays last week, and they still easily crushed this. Joe Flacco, obviously, on the other side, and I expect the Texans defense to step up again. I mean, we saw Texans last week. I said they had a really good rush defense, and it did not show up. Jonathan Taylor went berserk on them. However, I think they're going to be a little bit better here. They stopped Jerome Ford in that Browns rushing attack in that week. I believe they played in week 15. But in that game, you saw Flacco throw for 368 yards. I don't necessarily know if Flacco's going to do that once again, but we saw just a terrible game script for the Texans. So we saw them lose by 14. They were down 21 going to the 4th. And into that game, Singletary, only 9 rushing attempts. Did have success, 44 rushing yards, though, nearly 5 yards a carry. And the other running backs had 4 rush attempts. But look, at the end of the day, Singletary is the number 1 guy on this team. He's going to get the rushing attempts. And if this is a positive game script, which I certainly think it could, I think the Texans could win this game. I mean, heck, if you just go on social media, no one's giving the Texans a chance. And they're at home in the playoffs. No one's giving them a chance. Everyone's already saying, hey, the Browns got a chance to maybe knock off the Ravens or something like that. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if the Texans show up. And if this is a positive game script where they are leading, Singletary should easily crush this line. But I just don't think they get down by a ton in this game. I just think that Flacco and the Browns like to get a little bit too cute. They'll be throwing it a ton. And maybe the Texans defense and their secondary has improved a lot since they played a few weeks ago. I think maybe they step up and force, some easy, quick possessions, get the ball back to the offense. And I think we could see, Singletary have a pretty good game. Like I said, the Browns haven't been as good stopping the run as you might think. On the year, they're allowing 4.3 yards per carry, which is 19th in the NFL. So not even in the top half of the NFL in terms of rushing yards per attempt. I think Singletary has a pretty good game, and they're going to need him to have a good game because I just don't think it's a CJ Stroud. Hey, you got to carry the team for us. I think they're going to need Singletary. They're going to need a balanced attack. I really like his over in rush attempts at 16.5. Don't mind his rushing yards either. I also like his regular. I like it at 17.5 too. Now another prop I did consider in that game was Njoku's over in receiving yards. Very good matchup against the Texans as a tight end. I just didn't really want to force 2 plays into one game. I'll probably have some more, games where we have 2 or maybe even 3 plays in a single game. Just don't want to force a lot in this first wild card weekend on Saturday. So we'll just stick to Devin Singletary's attempts. Now, the second game, obviously, we got the Chiefs game. The Dolphins are coming into Kansas City. This game is expected to be really, really cold. I think the degrees is about 5 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to say wind chill is like minus 30 or something ridiculous. Now, my pick is still not really going to be affected a ton by the cold weather because I'm going to Patrick Mahomes and taking his over 33.5 passing attempts, minus 113 on Caesars. I would play this at 34.5. Now, like I said, this game projects to be very, very cold. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. And while some people might think, hey, they're just going to lean on the ground game, no one wants to tackle in the cold, that certainly could be. But I just think that this is a little bit of an easier matchup for the Chiefs passing the ball, given all the injuries for the Dolphins. And the Dolphins have been a really good team stopping the run. And we've seen push comes to shove in the playoffs. You're going to use your best player, and Mahomes, by far their best player. He's having to carry this team on his back. And I think they're going to let him sling the ball around. And I'm not saying, hey, he's throwing it 50 yards down the field and maybe they're throwing it deep, but we don't really want them. We don't want, honestly, if you get pass attempts, you get 60-yard completions, kind of hurts your pass attempts prop. We rather them trying to throw second and short and maybe incompletion. Then they do another short play to just move the sticks, move the distance. That's what we want to see. We just want pass attempts. And we saw, this season, Mahomes, 34 pass attempts in 11 of 16 games. Now, if you look at the one game he played against the Dolphins, that was that game in Germany, only 30 pass attempts back in week 9. Now, in that game, the Chiefs negative game script for passing. They were up 21-0 at halftime. Mahomes only 11 pass attempts in the second half. Chiefs also were only 3 for 10 on third down. So really bad game for the Chiefs offense, minus the first half. Didn't even score in the second half. So I think they'll be a little bit better here. And you look at Mahomes, he just normally has a high floor. I mean, this guy normally at least 30 pass attempts in almost every single game this season. 2 games he went on the hook, 33 pass attempts. But like I said, Dolphins banged up a little bit. Xavier Howard is out, one of their star corners. And then you also got their 2 safeties are both questionable. Who knows if either of those 2 guys play? So I think you're going to see the Chiefs have to test those guys. And I'm not saying, test them deep, maybe test them in coverage on the running backs and say, hey, dump it off this Pacheco. And maybe instead of running it to Pacheco on first down, dump it off to him in the flats and see if he can make a guy miss. But look, these are just, when they get to the playoffs, they just lean on Mahomes. Last year in the playoffs, you saw Mahomes had 30, 43, and 27 pass attempts. So while, yes, you could say, hey, you only went over in 1 of 3 games, you look at the games, anomalies. You saw one game he had 30, he got injured in that game, and Chad Henne came in and had 7 pass attempts. So basically Mahomes would have gone over. Then the other game, 27 in the Super Bowl, not only did they have a defensive touchdown, they also had basically a punt return touchdown where Kadarius Toney nearly housed a punt and took a 65-yard punt return. Those 2 plays, an anomaly. You don't get a lot of defensive touchdowns in the NFL. You don't get a lot of punt returns like that too. So look, both those 2 games, I'm not going to really worry about that. You saw last year or 2022, Mahomes 39, 44, and 39 pass attempts. They're going to lean on him. Pacheco still not 100%. Looked pretty good when he returned back from injury. Did not play last week as they rested him, but still they're going to lean on Mahomes when push comes to shove. And everyone's basically going to be counting on the Chiefs because they're going to talk about the Dolphins and cold weather games and all that stuff. Dolphins have seen all that chatter. Wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins show up on Saturday too. And if we see the Chiefs down, you better believe they're going to be throwing it even more with Mahomes. So I think at the end of the day, I'll trust Patrick Mahomes to throw 34 times. We know Andy Reid is not afraid of slinging it around regardless of the weather. And Mahomes is not afraid of throwing things that, maybe other QBs are probably not going to throw. So I really like these 2 props today. Devin Singletary's over in rush attempts at 16.5. And obviously Patrick Mahomes over 33.5 pass attempts. I could add some more plays, but I really just want these 2. Hopefully we can go 2-0 on Saturday. I don't want to force a ton of picks. It's a cold weather game. You never know what's going to happen. Something could go haywire. I'd rather just stick to these 2 plays, and we'll add some more on Sunday. We have some better weather in the Sunday game. So we'll stick to those 2 plays, 2 winners, hopefully. Let me know your favorite pick down below, though. I'm always curious what you guys are playing because you guys are pretty smart out there. So obviously, let your picks down below. People probably will read them and tell you if you got some good analysis. You guys have a wonderful Saturday. I'll be back on Sunday with some more picks, and technically that Sunday's edition of picks will probably be live on probably Saturday sometime in the morning time. So stay tuned for that. Probably will be live before these games even go off. But you guys have a wonderful day. If you want to sign up for Sleeper, get that $500 match on your first deposit up to $500 and that Matthew Stafford free square. Take advantage of it. I'll show how I would be using that free square in Sunday's edition of NFL Bets. You guys have a wonderful day. Let's have an absolute killer wild card weekend and go into the playoffs and absolutely dominate. See you guys in the next one. Peace.